Welcome back to the Girly Girl Bookworm. So today I have my last 5 reads for you. Some of this will be a little bit repetitive because 4 out of the 5 of these were in my monthly wrap-up, which I just posted the other day. So might be a little repetitive, but I figured I still wanted to do this video anyways. So let's just get started. So I read Passion on Park Avenue by Lauren Lane. And this was the book talk for Book Talks After Dark with Kendra from Kendra Loves Books and Shelby from Shelby Taggart Reads. And last month, their co-host was Avery from Avery Loves Books. And I was really excited because I had kind of come into the knowledge of this trilogy after I started my book buying ban. So I knew that I couldn't pick these books up, and then when it was the choice, I was like, yes, I could at least get the first one. So I ended up picking it up, and I really enjoyed this book. Bless you, Sydney. She's in the room, and she's sneezing. This is the first book in a trilogy, and I really, really enjoyed it. It follows a girl named Naomi, and she is at a funeral for her boyfriend, but when he died, the obituary let her know that he actually had a wife, and so she decides to try to go to the funeral, but then she chickens out and kind of leaves the church and bumps into his wife, and then they end up bumping into another mistress of his, and they end up becoming this really good friendship group. And each book is going to follow a different character, a different woman. So this one's following Naomi. And she had only been dating him for about 3 months at that point. So she was kind of the least attached to the husband. But they kind of make this pact that they're not going to date any more losers. And that they're going to be able to figure out who the scummy people are. So Naomi is living her life. And she, her lease is up for her house and her apartment. And then she gets a phone call that she has an interview to get into this apartment complex on Park Avenue because her mom, before her mom passed away 6 months prior, submitted paperwork for her. And Park Avenue kind of has a place with Naomi because when she was a child, her mom and her lived in one of those apartments because her mom was a housekeeper for a family there. But her mom had an affair with the man of the house. And when they got caught, they were, the little boy that also knew about the affair kind of lied and was like, no, Naomi's mom came on to dad, dad is innocent kind of thing. And so Naomi and her mom got thrown out immediately. So Naomi's mom kind of sets her up for this apartment because she wants to go back, because now Naomi is rich and made of lots of money because she has this company. And her mom kind of wants her to be in your face, look at me now, I'm better than you. And so Naomi goes to the interview anyways, and sure enough, the boy who lied is the one who's interviewing her. And oddly enough, Oliver does not recognize Naomi. And so it's kind of this second chance-ish romance, because not that they had a romance when they were kids, but it's a second time they're meeting. And it's kind of a little bit of enemies to lovers because Naomi really hates Oliver. And there's a whole dynamic of Oliver's father that was really hard-hitting. The more we talked about this during the discussion, the more flaws I saw with it. But during the reading of it, it was just a simple, great romance. It's really, really short, so it's easy to get through. And I ended up giving it 4.5 stars. So it does have its flaws, but if you're just looking for an entertainment value, I would say definitely still check it out. I do plan on continuing on with the series and getting to see the other two girls' story. Then I picked up Wild Game by Adrienne Brodeur. I can't say that. It's probably French. But it says, my mother, her lover, and me. And this is a nonfiction memoir about Adrienne. And when she was 14 years old, she was at the Cape House with her mom and her stepdad and her stepdad's best friend and his wife. And one night she's sleeping and her mom comes in and is like, he just kissed me. And, which is, Ben. So Ben, who is her stepdad's best friend, just kissed her mom. And her mom then kind of wraps her into this world of like deception and trying to help her facilitate this love affair with her stepdad's best friend. It is insane to read about. This mother-daughter relationship was so unhealthy. And I did not rate this because I feel like if I were to rate this, I would be judging her life, and that's not what I mean to be doing at all. But I did take so much away from this in learning about this, how mother-daughter relationships can affect your life. And I did take a lot out of it. So I do still highly recommend it. I know I'm not rating it, but that's just because I don't feel like I don't want to be judging this person's life. But I did enjoy my time reading this, and I'm really glad that I did read it. So I highly recommend you check it out. The writing style is really simple to read, and it's very gripping because it's just so unreal that this relationship even happened like this. So I highly recommend it. Glad that I got to it. It's a really short, quick read. And yeah. Then I read The Scent Keeper by Erica Braumeister. This is everywhere. I have this in my wrap-up. I have an entire video just about this one. This was the Reese Witherspoon pick for this month. And this follows a girl named Emmeline, and she is living on an island with her father. They are the only two people that live on this island, and he basically has her learn about life through scents and fairy tales, and that's kind of how she knows her life. He has all these drawers filled with bottles of scent papers, and he basically has a story for each scent, and she's very intrigued by it. And one day something happens that kind of flips her life upside down, and now it's up to her to learn about life on her own terms. And it's a very beautiful story. It's magical realism. The first 40 pages, it took me a little while to get into because I get confused with magical realism sometimes about like what's really happening and what is magical. But by the time she got to be like a teenager, when her world flips upside down, that's really when I started getting more invested in the story, and I really enjoyed it. And I gave this book 4 stars. So I'll leave my full-length discussion up in the cards. I do have spoilers in there, so if you've read the book and you wanted to have a discussion, that's in there as well. So I will leave that link in the cards up above. Then I read The Beach by Sarah Lindley. I read this on my Kindle from Netgalley. This was sent to me through Netgalley from HarperCollins UK. This book is a suspense novel. It's marketed as a thriller, but I would call it more a suspense novel. We are following Holly, and Holly is living in this kind of remote-ish area of the UK, and she's kind of living her life. She's a teacher. She's dating one of her students' dads. And one day she gets a text message with a photograph alluding to something that happened in her past in her college days. And this starts spiraling things out of control, and this person is basically stalking her and continuing to send her messages and just bringing up her past. So we're following Holly in the current period. We're following Holly through her college years, and then we're also following this stalker's perspective. It was a very entertaining, engaging read. It reminded me of not a romance novel, that doesn't make sense. It reminded me of a Lifetime movie. It kept me on the edge of my seat, but there weren't twists and turns. So if you're going into this thinking that there's going to be twists and turns, there really isn't. Even like the reveal for who the stalker is happens very early on, and it's a very just like, hey, this is who I am, and it's not really done in a twisty way. The only twist happens like in the epilogue. So I liked it. I enjoyed it. It's not the most original story in the world, but in the time of reading it, I really enjoyed it, and I read it in one day. So I ended up giving it 4 stars, but I don't think it will be a read for everybody. If you're looking for something super special or you're looking for something super gripping and twisty and turny, this is not going to be for you. But if you're just in the mood for like a high, fun, suspenseful novel, I would definitely check it out. But that's The Beach. And then the last book that I read is The Simple Wow by K.A. Tucker. Oh, I don't match. You don't want to see my leggings. This is The Simple Wow by K.A. Tucker. It has been everywhere, especially since Wild at Heart just came out, and everybody has been raving about this book for about a year now. I feel like Shelby and Kendra have been begging me to read this book, and I finally did, and I really enjoyed it. I ended up giving it 5 stars. This follows a girl named Kala, and her mom fell in love with a bush pilot in Alaska, and Alaska just turned out not to be for her mom. So her mom moves Kala away at 17 months old back to Toronto, and they kind of just like moved on and lived their life. It's now 24 years later. She's 26 years old, and she's kind of just living her life. And she gets a phone call from somebody saying that her dad has cancer. And she decides that she's going to just go to Alaska, get to know her father. It's been 24 years since she's seen him. They've kind of had a falling out in the recent 12 years. He was supposed to come to her 8th grade graduation and didn't. So they kind of have their relationship has kind of fallen to pieces. This is kind of why I avoided this book, is knowing that this father has cancer. I don't do well with father death. It's always been one of my biggest fears in life. I'm 29 years old. My father will be 86 this year. So my dad basically had me at 56. So my entire life I've always known that my dad is older than everybody else. So I have always had this fear of losing him. So I don't go into books about father death very often. But I knew that this book was going to be so much more. And when she goes to Alaska, she ends up meeting this burly bush pilot named, oh my gosh, why am I blanking? Jonah. And Jonah kind of is prickly around the edges and kind of is not happy with her because he loves this simple life of Alaska, and she is definitely like high maintenance, loves her heels, loves her wedges, takes pictures for Instagram, and he just like doesn't understand her life whatsoever. So he is very bumpy with her. And so it's kind of their enemy to lover romance, and I liked that it was such a slow burn. Like, it wasn't like, let's be enemies and 2 minutes later let's hook up. Like, it felt very natural. I love the development of all of the relationships in this book because they felt very realistic to what it would have been like if you haven't seen your father in 24 years and now you have to go be his friend pretty much. I really liked the relationship between her and her stepfather. There was just a lot going for this book, and I really, really enjoyed this. And this book obviously had me sobbing by the end. I really enjoyed this, and I can't wait to try Wild at Heart at some point, probably when I'm off my book buying ban, or maybe it'll be one of my 5 books when I get to my cheat. But yeah, really enjoyed this. Glad that I finally got to it. So those are the 5 books that I read most recently. Let me know what you've read down below. Have you read any of these books? Any of your thoughts? Let me know down below, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye, everybody.